Hi everyone. Today we are going to be doing a drawing of a koala bear. And most of you have been to the zoo and seen koala bears at the zoo. Every single time I've seen a koala bear at the zoo, they are hugging a eucalyptus tree. So that's what our picture is going to be, is a koala bear hugging a eucalyptus tree. All right, so here are your materials that you'll need. I have a white piece of paper, and today I'm going to be using watercolors. So I have my watercolors in front of me as well. If all you have at home are crayons or colored pencils, that's completely fine too. I decided to switch it up today and use some watercolors for this picture. I also have a pencil because I'm going to draw in pencil in case I need to erase. And then I have a black crayon that I'm going to be using to outline it and also to keep my watercolor inside of my picture. All right, so let's get started. My koala bear is, like I said, going to be hugging a eucalyptus tree. So I'm going to be having my eucalyptus tree going down my page from top to bottom and my koala on the right side. So I'm going to want my paper going vertically, so up and down this way. All right, so I'm going to start with my koala and leave my tree for a second. I'm going to be drawing in pencil, and you want to draw lightly because I am going to be erasing a few things on here because I'll be overlapping. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a slightly curved line to represent the top of my koala's head between its ears. Now I want to make sure that this line is kind of up to the upper right hand part of my paper, and it's just going to be a curved line like this. Now if I start with it too small, then I'm not going to have a big enough koala. So remember, this is between its ears. So I'm going to make this line a little big. All right, and then I'm going to be doing my koala ears. Now remember, koalas have rounded ears with a little bit of like fuzz on their ears for their fur. But I'm just going to be doing a simple shape for my ear. I'm going up, around, and down like this. And I'm going to be doing another one on the other side. Up, around, and down. And I can always alter those if I'm not quite loving those right away. All right, now I'm going to be finishing my koala's face. So I realize this ear is a little bit big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to go in here, and my koala has a nice round face. So I'm just going to finish my face right around there. All right. And you can add a little bit of the insides of the ears if you want there. Okay. And if you get a little overlap, that's fine too. Okay. Now what I need to do is I need to add in my koala body first. And my koala, it's not going to be standing there. It's going to be hugging my tree. So it's going to have kind of a curved part of my body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here almost to where my ear and my face intersect. Almost there. And I want kind of a nice curved body. I'm going to go really lightly because I'm going to come around in like a giant almost backwards C shape here. And the reason I want this is because I don't want to go down too far because I don't want my koalas kind of grabbing onto that tree. And then this is going to represent part of the bottom of my foot. I'm going to go back up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my tummy of my koala. So I'm going to come up here a little bit, and I just want to very, very lightly, this is where I'll be erasing. I'm going to make kind of a rounded tummy right here, and I'm going to stop. So it's kind of a strange line that just sort of hovers right in here, and I'll explain why in a minute. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up my foot right here. I'm going to curve it around, bring it in, and then make another kind of a curved line for part of my leg right there, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, then I'm going to have my arm. And my arm's coming. So my koala is facing me, but its body is turned to the side. So that's why it looks a little funny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off my arm right here, and it's going to come out and out here. And then it's going to curve around like this. And here's what I'm talking about when I want to do a very, very light sketch, because I'm going to end up erasing right here where my arm intersects. Okay, perfect. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to add some details on our face. So koalas, we want to make sure, if I don't want my eyes to be right up here in the middle. I want my eyes to kind of be down here a little bit below my ears. Now, before we do our eyes, koalas have really big noses. So I'm going to do kind of a curved line right here and an arched line for my koala nose. And then I'm going to add some koala eyes right here. 1, 2. You can give it some eyeballs. If you want to give your koala some eyelashes, you can do that just for fun. Okay. And then what we need to do is we need to add in our tree. So we'll be right back and we'll add in our tree. Okay, so now we have our koala drawn in here, and now we need to add our details. First thing we're going to do is we need to add our tree that our koala is hugging on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my tree right here in the middle of between the bottom of my ear and the top of my arm right here. And I'm going to make a line, kind of a diagonal line right here. I'm going to continue this line going up and pretend that it's going over that body and continue it right down right there. So one part of my tree trunk is going to be going in a nice diagonal line. Then I want the other part of my tree to be over here. I'm just going to go from the top and I'm going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to do a little bit of a wave line, not make it super straight because it's a natural tree. All right, I'm going to add in a few eucalyptus leaves over here. So I'm going to do a little bit of a branch, and this isn't going to be perfect. We just want to make sure because our koalas eat eucalyptus. So I'm going to just do some kind of curved eucalyptus lines over here, going over here, signifying some leaves. I'm going to do 1 or 2 of them over here, just kind of coming off. Even though this is a large tree, we kind of want to make, signify these eucalyptus leaves kind of coming over here. All right. And I might do 1 or 2 more over here. I can kind of come out of my tree here too. And if you have it come out of your tree, remember you need to erase that line where it intersects. Now, these eucalyptus leaves are curving down. If you notice, none of them are going out. They almost look like a banana. So you kind of have these curved lines kind of coming out. You can do kind of as many as you want there. I just do about 3 or 4. I might do another one kind of coming. If they go off the page, that's okay. All right. Anywhere where it intersects, remember to erase it so it looks like one line. Okay, so I'm just going to add about 3 of them in there just to make it really simple. All right, another detail that we need to add on our koala, or else they would not be able to hold on to these tree trunks, are some claws. So I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do 4 claws in here. And these claws are kind of big. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so the koalas have nice sharp claws so they can hold on there. Okay, another thing I might do is make this arm a little bit fatter because koalas are bears and they're nice and plump. Okay, now we are ready to trace over with our crayon. So we're going to trace over every single thing that you did here with crayon, and I want you guys to start doing that. The first thing I'm going to do is start with kind of my lightest color first. And koalas are gray typically, kind of a brownish gray. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my leaves first. So I'm going to get in a nice green for my eucalyptus leaves. Okay, paint in these eucalyptus leaves. And if you want to kind of switch it up with a couple different colors of green, that always looks really good too. This is computer paper or printer paper, so it holds the watercolor differently. It's a little more muted of a color and not quite as bright and saturated as a watercolor paper would be, but that doesn't really matter. It's whatever you kind of have lying around the house. There we go. All right, so I got in these, and I'm going to add. Then I'm going to go with a little bit of brown, and I'm going to paint my tree brown. So let's get in there. And if you wanted to add more details on your tree with black crayon, you could do that too before we get in here. And I'm just going to go kind of quickly. Now, here's another thing that you'll notice with this printer paper is it's difficult to get a really even color of my paint on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this wet on wet method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, dip it in the water, get just a little bit of plain water on here, kind of run it over my paper like this. And it looks like I'm kind of scribbling on it, but I'm really not. And then I'm going to add my color in there, and it goes right over it. And then it kind of blends a lot easier on there. Okay, you have to be a little careful with this Xerox or printer paper because if you use too much water, it gets really wet and it kind of starts to curl up. Okay, so I'm going to carefully get in here and paint my tree. And even though the black crayon will hold that color into one spot, if you kind of get sloppy with it and you go over your crayon, you won't have as nice of a result. So I want to make sure I'm being careful in how I'm doing that. Okay. And just like real trees, it doesn't all have to be perfectly brown all in one spot. It actually looks really nice. I think that's a beauty of watercolor as opposed to lots of other paints, is you can get it looking really nice and kind of get a shaded look kind of completely accidentally just by the way that the paint is on the paper. Okay, now I'm going to move on to my koala. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the insides of my little ears first. I'm going to get a little bit of I don't have pink, so I'm just going to do a little bit of red in here. Okay, so I have it on there. And then I'm going to do my koala. So because I don't have gray, I don't have a gray watercolor paint, I need a very, very light black. So I'm going to be super careful and use that black very, very, very carefully, very sparingly so it doesn't get too dark in there. But I also want it to look different than my tree. So I want to make sure that I'm getting it to look gray, but not completely black. You don't want it to look like a panther or something. The tree, you want to still keep it looking like a koala. All right, so I'm going to use that wet on wet method too, right in here. And I'm avoiding my nose because I'm going to go back and I want my nose to be a little bit darker black. I know if you've seen koalas in the zoo, their noses are very black. Now I'm being super careful to go around my eyes. I don't want to get a bunch of paint in my eyes. There we go, super careful. So even though it looks like I'm painting quickly, I'm actually being very, very careful with how I'm doing it. Okay, I'm getting that koala all painted. There we go. Careful, careful, there we go. And like I did with the tree, you do not have to all have it be perfectly the same color. It looks really nice and gets a kind of a cool shaded effect if parts of it are darker than other parts. Go back here and maybe make the back a little bit black. Okay, I'm gonna go back and now I'm gonna get a really saturated color, meaning I'm getting a lot of paint on my brush, and I'm actually gonna do my claws first, super carefully, claw, claw, claw. This makes it so you have like really nice definition in there and they stand out. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to do my nose. And my nose is darker than the rest. I'm going to leave it. Now, one thing that you want to make sure when you do watercolor is, even though you might want to show your parents or show somebody in your house, your brothers and sisters, don't pick it up right away because everything will drip down. If I were to pick this up, that nice little wet nose that I just did will drip all the way down my paper and it will kind of ruin it. Okay, so now I'm going to clean off my brush, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to paint my background. I'm going to do blue for my background. So kind of the same thing. I'm going to get that wet on wet method. So you work on that and we'll be right back. So I'm just finishing up my painting right here, and I'm being very, very careful to go around all of my leaves, not on top of them. Doing that wet on wet, adding that water first, and then just touching my brush into that paint and just adding a tiny bit of paint. When you do that wet on wet method, you really need to just work section by section instead of soaking the entire paper with water, because what will happen is it will dry too quickly and it won't work. Okay, so I'm just finishing up here. And I want to point out one more thing before I stop is make sure that you've covered all of your areas really, really carefully. Even this little area right here, it really makes it look like your koala's hanging off of that tree right there because you have that little empty space right there. All right, so happy koala drawing, and I'll see you next time.